땡큐. 이런 냄새와 더불어 이제 우리가 전진하는 그러한 결의의 목표는 뭐냐면 이제 공산 모스크바에 있어서 세계적 대회를 하는 날이 남아있다 이거예요.
So then, from this time we solemnly declare we have an additional goal, another step to go. That its next goal is indeed the Moscow.
On April 15th, 1988, Yu Kitamura, a member of the Japanese Red Army, was arrested on the New Jersey Turnpike, driving a 1980 Mazda. And inside that Mazda, there were 3 highly sophisticated anti-personnel bombs. FBI officials contacted Unification Church and those who were working closely with Reverend Moon in a very short period of time to inform them that Kitamura had a list of targets, individuals that he planned to attack. And one of the people who was on that list was Reverend Myung Moon. November 3rd, 1969, Richard Nixon used for the first time the term the great silent majority.
And the wheel of destiny has turned so that any hope the world has for the survival of peace and freedom will be determined by whether the American people have the moral stamina and the courage to meet the challenge of free world leadership. We passed on the other side of the road and allowed the last hopes for peace and freedom of millions of people to be suffocated by the forces of totalitarianism. So tonight, to you, the great silent majority of my fellow Americans, I ask for your support.
He used this term to refer to Americans who did not join in large demonstrations back in the late 1960s against the Vietnam War, and those who did not partake in the counterculture, and who did not support the view that America was responsible for all the problems in the world.
Thousands of demonstrators opposed to the Vietnam War assembled in the nation's capital for a mass protest.
Nixon contrasted the great silent majority with a highly vocal minority. That highly vocal minority was against the war in Vietnam. They looked at America through the prism of its history of slavery, through the prism of its discrimination against minorities, and its support of repressive governments in Vietnam, Africa, and Latin America, because such governments were anti-communist. The highly vocal minority denounced Christianity as a tool of oppression. They proclaimed their commitment to a sexual revolution, and they resorted to hallucinatory drugs, including LSD. Because of the highly vocal minority, Dr. Pak, the president of Cause International, founded by the Reverend Myung Moon, liked to say that the war in Vietnam was not lost on the battlefield in Vietnam. It was lost because of the highly vocal minority in Washington, D.C. Vietnam fell in 1975, and by 1979, the communist world had turned its attention to Central America.
No country today, including the United States of America, is immune to communist takeover. Indeed, revolutionary fires are burning all over the world, including the very backyard of the United States.
And they applauded the Sandinista Revolution, a direct attack upon Yankee imperialism. They called also upon the United States to engage in a gesture of goodwill of unilateral disarmament of its nuclear arsenal. The plan of the Soviets to go from Vietnam to Nicaragua, and then to go from Nicaragua to Central America, and to go from Central America to Mexico. Why? because they knew that Mexico had a 2,000-mile border with the United States, and that to defend that border would require millions of U.S. troops. How would they get those millions of U.S. troops? The U.S. had only one of two choices. The first was to reenact the draft. That would be a very unpopular choice. The second would be to pull U.S. troops out of NATO and out of the remaining outposts where there was a military presence in Asia, particularly Japan at that time. This would serve as a way for the United States to have to focus so much on its own border that the Soviet Union would find itself suddenly free to be able to begin to exert its will in Western Europe and Japan. The United States would become a hemispheric power, and the Soviets would move forward with their plan of expansionism. The silent majority that Richard Nixon spoke about, they saw these many things, but they had no way to articulate them. And then along came Reverend Sun Myung Moon. He inspired and turned around many educated American young people. As cows emerged in Latin America and then in the United States, it became clear that he had the message needed to address the Soviet threat and Marxism-Leninism, which empowered the Soviet soul.
Causa is the movement that unites the family of man under God, the Confederation of Association for the Unity of the Societies of the Americas.
And when we reflect upon that Declaration of Independence, that all men are created equal, it seems that we have a responsibility towards our heritage and towards our forefathers to understand what it is that we can do in order to advance the cause of freedom rather than allowing the continued advance of the cause of tyranny.
Father was involved every step of the way in the creation of the Causa movement. Remarkable thinkers and philosophers recognized the power of Reverend Moon's thought. Ricardo de la Sierva, a famous Spanish historian and a former minister of culture of Spain, said, "It seems to me that the Causa lecture manual offers the best analysis of Marxism-Leninism in print." And William Rusher, long-term editor of the National Review and a distinguished public intellectual, said, "I have enormous respect for the work Causa does, for the analysis which is clear, accurate, and honest, and looks in the round at all types of questions regarding the rather intricate aspects of communism that gets overlooked in our daily debates." We know, those of us who study about communism from the viewpoint of the divine principle, we understand, as Father said from the very beginning, this is a spiritual battle. There's a force behind communism, and the force behind communism is Satan, is a satanic force. Richard Wurmbrand, if you know the book Tortured for Christ, he went through all kinds of incredible torture at the hand of communists. And at the end of all those, the suffering and difficulties he went through, like one person used to burn him every single day, burn his flesh with cigarettes. And after all of the things that he went through, he said that one day he came to a realization. He looked at the person who was doing this and he said, "He's not doing this. It's impossible for a human being to treat another human being this way." And he said, then I understood there has to be a Satan. So what Father emphasized to us was that when we lectured, people should have spiritual experiences. Not just that they would sit and take notes and have some kind of a cognitive appreciation of the great work that Father had done in terms of dealing with the problem of Marxism-Leninism. They should have spiritual experiences. So I still remember, like, the very first time that we met with Father, that was December 7th, 1980. And we met with him at East Garden. And Father spoke to us during that period of time, and he just really emphasized several things. He said, first of all, you just have to be spiritually prepared. You just have to pray, and people have to have spiritual experiences based upon this very strong prayer. And also, he emphasized that we had to be united among ourselves. That wasn't always so easy to do, but we had to be united among ourselves. And he said, even if you have some struggles, you should never struggle publicly among yourselves. You have to somehow stay together and work together in unity, be a unified front, if you will. And Father said to us, he said, if somehow people in Latin America can understand the importance of true parents, then hopefully also the United States can understand the importance of true parents. So these things were things that were in our mind, in our heart, in our prayer. We want this to be a seminar that can be a great success, that people can be so moved and touched that they'll testify, and that finally America can also be able to understand how privileged we've been to have true parents here all of this time.
I would like to extend heartfelt thanks and appreciation for the opportunity to come to Moscow to hold this World Media Conference, sponsored by, jointly together with the Novosti Press Agency, together with the World Media Association. And the Soviet government has been very kind.
When True Parents met with Mikhail Gorbachev, they specifically asked and offered to help in several areas. One of those areas that they offered to help was in really, True Father wanted to keep the Soviet Union together. He wanted to see a democratic Soviet Union in which all the differences and all the hurt, everything could be able to be reconciled and solved, if you will. That was his aspiration. Even he, that always, one of the great things about True Father is he always sees the good in each situation, and he wanted to somehow restore something in the relationships amongst these people and be able to keep things going forward. So therefore, he was wanting to bring together all of these legislators to attend our conferences.
I am also very happy to be here in the Soviet Union. My heart truly goes out to the people of Soviet Union. Many of you have gone through unbearable suffering, and that suddenly I love your country and your people very much. I clearly envision a moral and economic renaissance for the Soviet Union that will dramatically affect the entire world. I will do all I can encourage it, and I support that renaissance. You are undertaking a new Soviet revolution, but this should be a revolution without blood and bullets. A revolution of heart and soul. I have been speaking about the importance of the family, but I would tell you that in the depths of my heart, I feel that the Soviet people are part of my family. I assure you that my wife and the children feel the same. Also, I assure you that members of the unification movement worldwide will do their utmost to work together with you for the future prosperity and well-being of all humanity. We must regard ourselves as being all members of one global family, living in one global house. May God bless the Soviet Union and all its people. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming, participating in this historical conference. Thank you very much.
When True Father met with Mikhail Gorbachev, he specifically asked him to allow for freedom of religion. He said, you need to have freedom of religion. If you don't have religion in this country, then it will not be possible for Russia to become all that it can be and supposed to be. You need to allow that to happen. So Father really encouraged President Gorbachev to allow for that. And that's what happened. President Gorbachev did recognize the importance of somehow preserving and allowing religion to be able to come to life again inside the former Soviet Union.